I don't know why we do that.
Yeah, I think that was actually pretty impressive. So, Mika, here it is. You're sitting next to me.
Yeah.
Finally, thank you so much. I know you're a busy, busy man. We should probably start with the big elephant in the room, which is, I'm sure you've seen it, the ongoing topic of performance. What's your opinion? Can you give some insights? What are the gang doing? Tell everything.
Okay. Nice talking to you, Sean, and nice having Zelda here with us as well. So on performance, there's actually, I would say, many things that are not working right now. Performance being one. We could talk about performance being, as in like the frames per second on the different consoles that where you can play Helldivers, and but then there's also crash rates. So we have various bugs causing crashes in the game. And then we just have the overall bugs that can cause like jankiness that you can feel when playing the game. And we could also talk about just the sort of the tightness and the balance of the various enemies and the loadout and so forth. And all of this is probably what players, many of these different things at least are what players are talking about when they're talking about just the game overall performance. And what I can say is that after the last big update into the Unjust, we experienced more issues than what we were comfortable with, and the players felt it, we felt it, and I would say that the feedback that we've gotten has been very justified. What I can say is that we're taking this very seriously, and we are focusing way more now on addressing these issues to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen again. And we have made the decision to push some of our content and feature updates a little bit into the future while we're addressing these things to make sure that we can get to a much more stable state that we can believe in. And then also we want to make sure that we actually do update the game in ways that will make the game more stable, in ways that are noticeable for players with every new update that we do. Some of these things we can address fairly quickly, especially with some of the bugs that players are rightfully complaining about. Other things are more tricky. For example, improving the FPS on the various consoles. Just that type of performance, that's more tricky. We have our top brains thinking about this, not me, but other people. And we'll see. But we are already making really big improvements, and I'm confident that we will get there, and we will be able to talk more in detail about this, hopefully quite soon.
Well, I think that's going to be music to people's ears. We've scratched the surface on that topic, but I'd like to understand, when you look out over the roadmap, as you said, what are some of the things that you're excited for players to see or might want players to be looking forward to?
I'm excited about everything that we're doing, and we have very good plans for the future. Sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle to talk too much in detail about exactly what we're planning, because that's just not the type of game that we're doing. In our game, I like to think of the Helldivers universe as an actual living universe, in large part shaped by the decisions of the players. That is the sort of universe that we're imagining. And in this kind of universe, it makes sense that you don't know everything about what the enemies are plotting. Sometimes things can sort of surprise you. So like with Omens of Tyranny, for example, when the Illuminates attacked, they did like a surprise attack. And we didn't foreshadow it beforehand, even though, of course, many players were speculating about it, and there were players catching all kinds of weird aerial phenomena, and they were speculating that this was actually the Illuminates. So there was a lot of speculation, but of course we never said like, hey, on this date the Illuminates will attack, because that would have spoiled it a little bit, and we don't want to spoil those kind of surprises. That's not the only way we want to tell the story, of course. We don't always want to tell the story in that way. But we can't, and I can't talk too much about exactly what's gonna, what's coming down the line. But we do have many things lined up, and we have a plan for, way into the future that I'm very excited about.
So that's the future, but I want to take a second and look backwards. Obviously, you've been involved from day one. What's kind of changed a little bit now that we're, day 600 plus? Can't imagine perhaps all of this was as expected.
No, it wasn't. I will just say quickly, I've not been involved from day one, Because if you really start in day one, that's like 8 years before Helldivers 2 launched. But I get what you mean. Day one from when we launched the game. It's been a journey. It's difficult to imagine for me that we're like 600 days into this game now, which is absolute insanity. But I feels like longer and shorter at the same time, and I hope we can continue for way longer. There's been a lot of things that have changed in the game. So we expanded the game in many different ways. So players who've stuck with us from the beginning know that we have, now we can fight, for example, in urban environments. So we have the Super Earth colonies, and we have the Super Earth cities. We have a new faction, the Illuminates. We have many new kinds of enemies and missions and so forth. And this has been revealed and added to the game, as the sort of story has progressed. And one thing that I really appreciated with our game, one thing that I do really appreciate with our game, is that we lean a lot into what we like to call good FOMO, which is this. When we say good FOMO, what we mean is that we do want to have FOMO in the game, but not the kind of bad FOMO that we don't like as players, but rather the good FOMO that is you get to take part in and shape this pivotal moment in the Helldivers universe. So, for example, Malevolent Creek was one of those moments that the players created, which is awesome. And then we have stuff like the Battle for Super Earth, that is, players got to take part in defending Super Earth, and they actually managed to defend Super Earth, which is super cool. And you live through that, you get to experience it, you get to have an impact on it, and then this event, is over, and you got to be part of that. And if you join the game now, you will not be able to participate in those events again, because they've already happened, right? They now live in the memory of the people who got to live through that together with the community. And I love that. That's one of the things that makes me most excited about Helldivers, is like this aspect of the game. And for new players, what I would want them to look forward to, and for them to help to be part of, is the new pivotal moments that will happen. Some of which will be initiated by us as the storyteller. So we have our game master that initiates this and that plays with the community, and some of which will be initiated by and shaped by players. And we have this back and forth sort of relationship. I'll throw in that one of our biggest inspirations for Helldivers are rather tabletop role-playing games. So with tabletop role-playing games, you have a game master, and you have this sort of story that you're telling, and you have an idea of where you're going. You might even have a book and so forth. Many game masters do this differently. So you have this, and then you have players, and you take them with you on this journey. But you ask the players, what do you do? And then you often have a die that you roll, and is to see if you sort of succeed or not with what you're trying to do. And the action of the players shape the outcome of the story. And sometimes it can really veer off into super unpredictable, in unpredictable directions. For anyone who hasn't played one of these tabletop role-playing games, that is the addictive thing when doing that. And that's what we want to do, and what we're trying our best to do and develop further with Helldivers. And I don't know, I'm just excited about this. So I hope that for new players, I forgot what you asked actually, but for new players, what I'm most excited about is for all of these new players to be able to take part in these new pivotal moments and help shape the game. And I'm looking forward to us being able to expand on this type of functionality and give players even more agency in various ways to have an even bigger impact on the outcomes of these stories that we tell.
Well, that's a really good point. That leads right into the next question. PlayStation continues, PC continues, now Xbox players are joining the fray. Yeah. It's truly become amazing how many different players are part of the world now.
Yeah.
When you think of those new players coming in, what is perhaps the advice for those new players, and what do you think that experience is coming in today versus the players that joined on day one?
For the players that joined day one, they all got to sort of learn about this universe and learn about the game and how you play the game. And with Xbox, we now had a bunch of new players, that previously might not have been able to play Helldivers come in. And, what we hoped would happen and what we saw happen a lot, which I'm very happy with and proud of to some extent, is that our more veteran players helped these players, and they played missions with them, and they gave them various kinds of equipment, and they say, hey, here's how you use this, and this is what you're supposed to do, and so forth. And they just try to get them into this game and get them to understand how to play Helldivers. That's the sort of spirit that we're after. We love to see it. I love to see it. Like the camaraderie of Helldivers and doing things together. The whole send dudes meme as well. This is what we like to lean into, and it is very fun to work on a game where the community gets to work like to solve problems and complete these orders together and strategize together. I think that's one of the best things. So I hope for Xbox players, I hope that you had a good onboarding and good interactions with our existing player base.
And that's actually super interesting, because a question that keeps coming up is, when you're playing, what's your play style? What are you doing? How do you like to get involved?
Yeah. So if we ask our players, hey, how do you like to play? What makes you excited? What makes you tick? Like, what sort of goals do you have? What do you think is missing from the game? And what do you think we do well? What do you think we do poorly? And so forth. Players tend to give very different answers because, of course, players have different needs and they play for different reasons. So I'm also part of one of these player profiles, you could say, like types of players. So we have, people have seen Niklas and Lennart on video talking about balance updates, for example. They're part of the crew, even they're not this simple, of course, but they're part of the crew that are very interested in, the technical aspects and like specifics. And that's great, because they can make sure that the players who care about this a lot, they get what they need. That's perfect. But for me, I am more of the type of person that basically living through different sorts of fantasies. That's what makes me tick. So when we do Warbonds, for example, what we try to do with Warbonds, okay, I'm throwing in many things here now, but what we try to do with Warbonds is we try to sell a fantasy. You get to feel like this, type of person when you play, right? It's not a. We're not thinking about like a power fantasy or like, oh, this weapon will be much better than every weapon that you tested before. That's not the primary thing that we think about. First, we start with what's the fantasy. What sort of movie trope are we trying to sell, for example, or other type of trope are we selling? And I really enjoy that. So I like to play in many different kind of ways, like playing stealthy ways, playing more berserker brute ways. That's what makes me tick. And I also really enjoy helping put together these like pivotal moments where everything is just work together as like a crescendo in an orchestra. Where you have enemies of different kinds and missions and environments and war bonds and all this, like work together to set the stage pretty much for players to just act things out. That's what really makes me tick, and this is what I'm super passionate about. And then the best part of it, of course, as I already said, is you set the stage and then players act it out, and then they do something completely unpredictable that just that shocks me and everyone who's doing this, and that's the best feeling.
What I think a question that comes up is, when you look back over the game up to this point, what are some of the biggest memories, biggest moments that really stand out to you?
There's many. One of them, of course, is releasing the game and having way more players play than we had anticipated. And then the Malevolent Creek moment, that many of our veteran players will know what this is. It was just a pivotal moment that basically players created themselves, and they were like rallying the troops around this, defending Malevolent Creek. This was when we realized, me and everyone else at Studio realized that, hey, it's working. Like our because we want to, as I said, set the stage and then let players play it out and then have them, create these pivotal moments together. That was one of these moments. It was just magical to see and observe in real time. I did really appreciate players' reactions to Omens of Tyranny. I liked that we released like the FRV, the vehicle. This was super cool because I think we surprised at least a few players with where we were taking the game, because many players I think speculated that we wouldn't, because we wouldn't add a vehicle because it would mess up the game balance. Well, surprise, we want to add fantasies, right? We have much more ambitious plans than this on how to change the game dramatically, and we want to keep doing this because it's just cool, right? Honestly, so that was pretty cool. And then Battle of Super Earth was also, I think, one of these big moments for me. But there are many. Tianquan was another one. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Calypso was really cool to see.
Well, look, we could talk for ages, and appreciate your openness. And of course, anybody should share their questions for you in the future as we do more of these moments to get your thoughts and hear from you. The final one that we're going to ask before letting you get back to things is, what is one thing that you would like to share with the community?
I would want to say first that thanks for the patience as we go through these we're so back, it's so over moments. I would say that. So that's I'm. Sometimes it's tough to live through that meme, but it's it's clear that we sometimes mess up. I think this is part of making a live service game. I really do think that we're developing this game together with the community, and I really appreciate all the feedback that we get. It's super useful to us, and we read it all. I'll say for sometimes for at our detriment, but most often it's very positive. Like, it's a very positive experience, I think, to interact with the community, and I'm looking forward to interacting with the community more, as I'm sure we will do, Sean. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So. I'm very excited about what the future has to offer, and it's so fun to develop this game together with everyone in the studio and together with the players. It's so fun.
Well, big thanks. Zelda's doing a little bit of a snore here. There'll be more in the future.
Yeah.
Let us know your questions. Thanks.
Thank you.